Hi everyone, Windy Blow Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Bloc Party record, Hymns. UK pop and rock outfit Bloc Party. They've been at it for well over 10 years at this point, and they are marking sort of this decade of music with this latest release. And I have a feeling that this new record over here is going to be sort of thrown to the dogs, as it seems fans haven't really been pleased with any Bloc Party album since the release of their debut record, Silent Alarm. And I mean, I sympathize with the sentiment that Bloc Party just hasn't been as good as they were since their debut. I think their debut record is one of the best debut albums, one of the best dance, punk, and indie rock records of the 2000s. But every album since has been met with at least some disdain. Sometimes I think some unreasonable disdain. The band's last full-length LP, in a lot of ways, I thought was a bit of a return to form, and I think was way better than a lot of people gave it credit for. And of course, fans are slagging this latest record over here too, or people who consider themselves fans, or at least people who are just kind of wanting another Silent Alarm. While I'm not in love with this LP, I don't think it's that bad either. The band continues to deliver danceable indie rock and pop, but this time with a moodier, sadder demeanor, and the lyrics on this thing are super intimate, super personal, to the point where I feel like I'm listening not to Bloc Party the band, but maybe more of a solo record by the band's frontman, but with some fuller backing instrumentation than what was shown on his 2 solo releases thus far. On top of that, in the lyrics there are just overt themes of sadness and anguish, redemption, and religion, to the point where he's mentioning conversations he's had with his pastor in the music. In some respects, I think this record is powerful, not in a punchy, danceable, visceral kind of way a lot of the time. It's more of an emotional, subtle type of power. The vocal performances on this thing are super vulnerable, kind of distressed, and very raw. This record has an honesty to it that I really like. I like that this album sort of just lets it all hang out emotionally, but I do understand that this is probably, once again, not the record that people interested in Bloc Party's music were looking for. Some people may see this record as boring or wimpy or whiny, and I could see those as legitimate criticisms. I mean, this thing does wear on you if you aren't looking for a kind of a emotional experience. But the positive things I can say about this record is that obviously there's a concept going throughout this album in terms of its sound, in terms of its lyrics. It's maybe one of the most cohesive records in Bloc Party's discography. And the type of music they're making on this project, I don't think is without precedent. The music on this thing reminds me of a lot of the sad, teary-eyed, emotional jangle pop and new wave music that came out of the UK in the 80s. The singing sounds like it comes from a place of real emotional weakness, like I'm listening to a Human League record or like a Smiths record or something like that. But Bloc Party isn't specifically trying to just cover those bands to a T. I think they take this emotional vulnerability and deliver it in a way that only Bloc Party can. And then there's just the way that gospel music subtly influences a lot of these tracks. Take, for example, the song The Love Within, the lead track off of this project. The vocal melody on this thing sounds like it's pulled straight from an old school gospel track, but it's set against these very bright, sunny keyboards that play off of this driving dance beat. The keyboards are kind of warped, and I like that it gives the tune a bit of a weird flavor, but after a while, they do get kind of annoying. I think that these keyboards could have been better placed, but the awkwardness of the verses, the slight awkwardness of the verses on this track does seem to melt away really quickly once the chorus sort of bursts in. The song Only He Can Heal Me, only He can heal me. Love those background vocals on this track, nice touch. And this song also fuses elements of dance music and gospel just as effectively as the intro. I think the first low point in this record is probably with the song The Good News. The booming drums and the sliding cock rock guitars on this track just seemed a little heavy-handed and kind of makes the song stick out like a sore thumb. And the song Fortress might go a little too far in the other direction, where the instrumentation is so sparse that it just spotlights the vocals, and the vocal performance is really just, it's super intimate. It's super just, again, I feel like I'm listening to someone who is in severe emotional pain, to the point where this track kind of reminds me of the Mountain Goats a little bit, like Get Lonely era Mountain Goats, which again plays to my interpretation that this feels so much more like a solo record than it does like a rock band's album. There are deeper cuts in the second half here that I think could have used a little bit more oomph or some development. These sort of middle-of-the-road tracks that do have that same emotional intimacy, but there is like a dance beat there. There's a backing beat there. There's some just very tangible rhythm instrumentation, but it doesn't hit that hard, and it tends to stagnate after a while. Songs like Into the Earth or Different Drugs. It's at this point in the album that we actually start hearing some pretty lackluster lyrics too, like rock and roll has got so old, just give me neo soul. Yeesh. And that's another thing. I could see a lot of people being turned off by the lyrics way more than I am, and even me enjoying this album, thinking it's decent. Did see a lot of lyrical potholes here. The religious themes seem a little too heavy-handed sometimes, and it seems like this album occasionally is a little too desperate to put its pain and its anguish onto a podium and for the listener to, I don't know what, stand in awe of it, sympathize in some kind of way. It doesn't really sound or feel relatable how the sadness on this record is delivered. It's not like on an eye-to-eye relatable sort of thing. It's thrown up onto a stage. It's placed up onto a platform as if it's like, you know, this incredible moment of emotional distress to behold. Overall, I thought this was a decent record. It just could have used a little bit more punch. I think there were some good tunes here. I didn't mind the religious themes, and I didn't necessarily mind the idea of going in a more emotional, in a sadder direction. The production generally was very balanced, very clean. Occasionally the vocals, the way that they whined from one track after another did sort of get to me. But ultimately this album's undoing for me was that some of the instrumentals here just fell kind of flat and were sort of lifeless. They could have done a lot more to either bring these songs some energy, some momentum, or add a little bit of drama to the very emotional vocals sitting on top of them, not just playing very plainly and very unimaginatively to a dance beat in the background while the vocals just kind of try to steal the show. I'm feeling a light to decent 6 on this thing. Tran?
Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You the best, you the best. What should I review next? Smash that like if you like! And leave a comment saying something nice. The nicest thing you can think of saying. Forever.